seen it.
Welcome to Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt of the Marquardt Law Firm at marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. On the radio, on podcasts everywhere, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on talklawradio.com.
And now on Instagram.
Yes, Shannon Roberta San Antonio is streaming. And so if you're interested in knowing the Mr. Rogers of San Antonio, just go search for Shannon Roberta San Antonio, and you'll see how she brings the community back together. We're going to be doing something special this holiday season. We're not yet ready to talk about it yet, but stay tuned, follow us, and we'll be sharing an announcement soon. But first, that's what they always say on Big Brother.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to talk about year-end tax planning with Adam Tostado. He runs and operates and owns a Tostado Corporation, and he's a tax preparer, and he will ask you so many questions because he's searching for ways to help you save money on federal income taxes, legally, ethically, above board. And so we're going to talk about some things that might apply to you, they might not. But don't take our word for it. This isn't advice. We don't want you to change your position without talking to somebody face-to-face about your unique financial situation. Adam, you review old returns. You ask a lot of questions. What's the process like for you to take on a
Well,
new...
when somebody comes in, it's not a Q&A. It's a conversation. And so we're like, oh, how's the family? How's the kids? And everything else. And the reason that we do it in that method is because, one, it kind of relaxes the person because you're just not in an interview, you're just having a conversation. And what I'm trying to get out of it is because a lot of people, they think they know what to tell you. And when we have a conversation, they're not thinking. We're just talking. And so when I say, when they tell me, oh, yeah, grandma just moved into the house the other day. And I'm like, okay, grandma moved in. And one of the kids is going to college and the other one is in preschool and this and that. And so what I get out of it is that when I start asking them questions, I'm like, okay, does grandma file a tax return? Is she your dependent? Do you have to pay for medical bills? Stuff like that, because that can affect your personal tax return.
Right.
And so with the preschooler, do you have a 529 plan? Do you have an education something? Because now with the 529 plan, you could use it all the way from preschool to college. So, how do you maximize your expenses and be able to have tax benefits? And so, well, how can the 529 benefit me? Well, if you do it out of your paycheck, your W-2 paycheck, that's a tax-free deduction from your gross pay. So that means you're paying less taxes, but it's going to an education fund that child could still use it today for preschool. And so when grandma is in the house and you have to remodel the house so you could have bigger doors for her wheelchair or put a medical bed or even buy prescriptions for her, then you could put that in your itemized deductions. And I said, well, there's a little caveat with that, because if you do, you have to have more than a certain amount to be able to have it deductible.
Yeah, there's lots of fine print.
Yeah, so you have to look at the whole big picture. So, but those are the things that, nobody thinks about. My kid is going to school and I have to pay for it. That's all they know. But
Shannon, you had a question.
Oh, yeah. Should I?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I kind of wanted to know, it feels like a dumb question. I don't want to ask my question
There is
anymore.
no. And understand this.
I know what you're going to say, but there are dumb questions.
I get this a lot. People say, oh my God, it's a dumb question, so I'm not going to ask you. The only dumb question that is dumb is the one you don't ask.
So ask away.
So ask away, and we'll go from there.
I'm blessed that I'm kind of around a lot of smart people. I don't feel smart, but I'm surrounded by smart people. And a lot of times they think they can do their own taxes. Help me make the case. And my position is, if you're a tax guy, you devoted your life to learning about taxes.
Yeah.
There's no way that's a bad decision
No.
to put that in the hands of an expert as opposed to doing it. You might be the smartest person in your thing. And so help me make the case. Why do...
Well, and this leads me into what to look for in a tax preparer first, okay? Because I tell people, talk to a tax professional.
It's not just any tax preparer.
Yeah, you can't go,
you're right.
So if you go to H&R Block or you go to Jackson Hewitt, most of them are end of year people. They're just there to do tax season and that's it. And so when you find the long-term people, you want to find somebody who's in business the whole year. There's just not tax season.
Oh, okay.
And so, and then when you're interview tax people, because tax people think, I just got to see you once a year and I'm done and I'll see you next year. No, see them 2-3 times a year, because if you make more money, hey, how is this going to affect my taxes? Have I paid in enough? Have I not paid in enough? Where can I put money away into retirement
Have I
and have a
borrowed
deduction?
money? Have I lent money?
Yeah, and so you only get that by asking the questions, okay? And so when you find, and I usually have like 5 stipulations when I look for a preparer. And so, but when you say, should I go to a professional? First, go to any professional just to get advice. They don't have to do your tax return. Okay? And so just to get advice to see if I'm on the right road. If you're starting a new business, if you're starting a new job, if I'm getting married, my kids are going to college, my kids are going to preschool, you want to know, how does this affect my taxes? And people don't see that all of that affects your taxes. So you always want to know if you're doing the right thing. And only a tax professional can tell you that. The other reason is, if you do your taxes and you make a mistake, okay, the IRS is going to come after you, okay? But if you have a professional do your taxes, the professional is responsible for your taxes, because he or she is going to sign your tax returns with you. If you go to a professional, look at the bottom of page 2, and it has your name, your husband's name, and then the preparer's name with all 3 signatures. So the IRS is going to go, and so when the IRS asks you, okay, we have a mistake on this part, or we have a concern with this, then you're going to say, okay, can we contact my preparer? And then he's going to be able to translate that in plain English for you,
Right.
but in
Into
tax,
English,
in tax
yeah.
jargon to the IRS.
But that's what you want. Not everybody will do that. Adam will do that.
Yeah.
Right. So as part of the interview process.
That's what you're
Yeah.
going to be asking for. Do you represent me if IRS has any questions? Do you defend your own tax returns?
I think you answered my other question also, because in immigration, I would always be asking people to go, please get an ITIN, because if you're working, you've got to report it. And people were scared, but it's really to an immigrant's benefit to
Yeah,
report
so-
Well,
it.
and so
Let me just explain to the audience why Shannon is an expert in this. Remember, Shannon is an immigration attorney.
Oh,
And so
Okay.
we talk a lot about immigration, and now this is where it gets really exciting, and Shannon and Adam really click because they both help immigrants in some
right.
way.
And so
I'm
you,
not going to say expert, though. I'm going to push back on that.
Okay.
and so
Right.
you have to realize that an ITIN number
Yeah.
is not the right to work.
No, no, of course
it
not.
doesn't give you the right to work, but it gives you the right to report income, which is kind of odd. How am I going to get income if I'm not working for it?
Right.
But the IRS doesn't care about that. They said, that's Department of Labor. This is us. And so what the ITIN does is you report your income, you pay the taxes, because on your personal history, that's going to look better when you're filing for citizenship or residency, because they're going to look at it and say, I've been an upstanding citizen. I've been paying my taxes. I've been acting and looking like a regular citizen. Now I just want the right to be a citizen. And so they have more favor with the government immigration. When you see that and you're being an upstanding citizen, they're like, no, let's give them the right to do that fully.
I'm tracking with you, and sometimes some of the immigration benefits that you could qualify for as an undocumented person require you to prove that you've been here a certain period of time.
Right.
What better way to do that than to be honest?
Exactly,
with
because now
what-
you have a federal document that says, I've been in this country since this point in time. So when the immigration says, hey, you have to be here 5 years, prove to me that you've been here 5 years. Not only am I going to prove to you that I've been here 5 years, but I've been doing things the right way for 5 years.
Right.
Even though I don't have the rights or permissions to be here, but I acted and felt like I'm a citizen and I've done everything that a citizen does.
I've heard many times that they would go to tax professionals and they couldn't get an ITIN. How do you say it correctly?
An ITIN number.
ITIN?
Yeah. So anybody can, you file a W-7, it's a one-page form, you send it in, and 6 weeks later, you'll get not a Social Security number, but you'll get an identification number that looks just like a Social Security number.
Right.
You have to remember that, and they have to remember they cannot use that as a Social Security number. So they can't go and say, apply for a job and say, here's my number.
I'm sure it says right on there, not valid.
Yeah.
It'll say not valid for employment, but sometimes, and I've seen some that don't say
Well,
that.
you know,
Oh,
on my
wow.
Social Security card on the back, it says this is not an identification
Yeah.
number.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lie.
Yeah.
We should
Yeah.
clarify we're not advocating for anyone to be here without legal
Right.
permission.
Right. No. But if you're here and you want to do things right, this is the path you should be taking.
Report your
Right.
income.
Report your income.
So why is it that some tax preparers and CPAs don't want to do that?
Well, they don't want the hassle that if the IRS questions it, a lot of preparers, they'll do the tax return and say, okay, tell me what you want to put on the forms. How do I know? Okay, here's my W-2, here's my income, here's my expenses. And they'll literally say, okay, we're going to put this here and we're going to put it on the right lines. I don't do that. I say, tell me why this is income. Tell me where'd you do it? What are your expenses? And if they didn't give me enough, I know because I've done so many tax returns what they're missing. And I'm like, well, where's your cell phone? Where's your internet? Where's this? And they're like, oh, nobody ever asked me that. Because the reason that a lot of preparers don't ask that is because they don't want to get questions from the IRS. So because if the IRS questions you, then they're going to say, well, no, we don't deal with that. We just do tax returns. We don't deal for audits or conversations with the IRS. And then they're like, well, what do I do? Well, you got to find somebody who does that for you. And so now they're going to go to a CPA or to a taxpayer advocate or an EN,
Enrolled agent.
an EA, an enrolled agent. And they're going to pay 4 or 5 times more money because they're specifically for those purposes. Because there's a field for that. And when they come to me, I'm like, I did your tax return. I can defend it. Let me call the IRS. And usually it's 15 minutes and then I'm done. Today, I went to the IRS and we said, hey, why is this, this, and this? And we ended up getting $6,000 more on the refund than when we filed because we're there talking to them. And the client was a military professional. And so he was overseas. So IRS says, oh, you're exempt. So never mind. Here you go. And here's your money back.
We got to take another break, Adam. We'll be right back.
This has been Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt, brought to you by the Marquardt Law Firm. You can learn more at marquardtlawfirm.com. And be sure to listen to the full Talk Law Radio show Saturday mornings at 11 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Each week, attorney Todd Marquardt talks about the law. His mission with the Talk Law radio show and podcast is to help you discover your legal issue blind spots. In the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then came the 10 Commandments. Now we have federal, state, and municipal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws. Laws that might impact you without you knowing it. Listen to the show and drop a line on Facebook or email host@talklawradio.com and let the host know what you think of the show, the topics you want to hear, and whether you want to be a guest.